Welcome, everyone, to Wizards and Warp Drives, the podcast where three grown-ass men get deeply nerdy about the things they love. My name is Nacho, and joining me, as per usual, is Fred from How to RPG, and the mighty glue stick himself, Mr. AJ Pickett.
Hello.
Hi. It has been nice to have an extra hour of sleep.
Yes, yeah, time travel. We got an extra hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I believe War of the Worlds, and more War of the Worlds, aliens, Mars. Oh,
Mars.
again.
Get your ass back to Mars. What's that from? Total Recall, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it is. Yes.
All right. You want to kick us off?
Oh, all right. No one would have believed in the last years of the 19th century that human affairs were being watched. In the timeless worlds of space, no one could have dreamed that we're being scrutinized as someone with a microscope studies creatures that swarm and multiply like a drop of water. Few men ever considered the possibility of life on other planets, and yet, across the vast gulf of space, minds immeasurably superior to ours regarded this Earth with envious eyes, and slowly and surely they drew their plans against us.
Da, da, da.
and then cut to every song and movie ever made about aliens.
Yeah. So we've always been compelled by life on other planets. The moon, pretty much, it was cheese. But Mars, with its canals and other mysteries, has always drawn Earthlings' eyes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a story from 1898 that still asks questions about our place in the universe.
Yeah.
You know, it's so we
still don't know for sure. You know.
No. So we're going to dive into War of the Worlds. From H.G. Wells, or Herbert George Wells. I think I'm just going to call him Herbie from now on.
Herb.
Ring, ding, ding, ding.
So, he was born in 1866, an English writer, also known as the father of science fiction. He's famous for The Time Machine, The Invisible Man, and, of course, War of the Worlds. In his books, he predicted things like tanks, space travel, nuclear weapons, and the internet. He was a socialist. He was also a diabetic. He co-founded Diabetes UK. He was nominated for 4 Nobel Prizes. And in War of the Worlds, he used 19th century science to imagine Martian invaders with heat rays, gas weapons, and tripods, foreseeing future warfare. And also, the Martians died from bacteria, highlighting germ theory. He used key themes including like reversed imperialism, survival of the fittest, science over religion, and the fragility of civilization. Wells reminds us that Earth isn't special, it's just in a vast, hostile universe.
Yeah. In that way, he's like H.P. Lovecraft in that he's got the existential horror of the unknown. In this case, them being nasty.
Yeah. I mean, there was so much. I mean, you think back of when this was written. This is all pre-World War One. Gas. The Martians were using gas. War machines, tanks, all that stuff. I don't know if he was. I'd hate to say he almost possibly inspired. Maybe a lot of this shit was maybe a horror. I don't know.
I think you'll find that there was gases that they could use back in the day. I mean, that's been around a long time. Ammonia gas is lethal, and that was something that would have been readily available to people of his day. So that's not difficult. And the manufacture and making of gases, there's plenty of stuff around. So I don't think that's weaponizing it. I think it's just they got better at weaponizing stuff, really. Because remember, World War One was full of gas warfare.
Yeah.
They just used bucket loads of it.
Mustard gas.
and I can assure you that they were using something like that before that, or certainly capable of doing so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
one of
think
my
not.
ancestors got knocked out with gas, came home from the war, and then went to work in a cement factory. Not great, and his lungs packed out by the age of 36. He was dead.
Mm.
Jesus.
Luckily, left behind my ancestor. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, things like the heat ray, which incinerates instantly, like early lasers. Lasers weren't invented until the 60s. So he well foresee like energy weapons, like you said, black smoke, toxic gas, prefigures World War One's mustard gas. Tripods were like armored war machines. Tanks weren't invented until 1916. So,
Yeah.
bacteria, the downfall of germ theory. And then
Yeah, that was really amazing.
he took all these ideas. He reversed, I guess at the time the British Empire was the most colonizing sort of nation in the world with India and stuff. So he kind of reversed that imperialism of having us been colonized.
Yeah.
He just had a lot of big ideas. Obviously inspired by stuff like Darwinism and science versus religion. That's something I noticed on the book. That he really highlights that has kind of been lost. There's this one bit in the book where everyone, like the Martians are invading, everyone's dying, and then there's one day where everyone's sort of acting like, oh, nothing's up, and they're just acting per normal. And like the narrator of the book, who's nameless in the book, it's like, why are you all like, don't you know what's going on? And it's like, oh, it's Sunday. They're not going to attack us on a Sunday. That's still, it's still
Right.
like that naivety of religion.
That's his gentle indictment of religion for you.
Yeah.
It's interesting how there is so much colonialism, or the predicaments of colonialism that are presented in War of the Worlds, and obviously the themes are that an invader who is trying to colonize will literally wipe you out. It's not like we're going to just come in, move in, take over, and live beside you.
Mhm.
No, we will burn you to the ground and take all of your shit. That's what humans did, and that's what the aliens do in the story. And it's really a reflection of the brutality of the humanity. The human race just doesn't get it, right? That's what they've done, and the pickle they used to get themselves into, which is everywhere they went somewhere where they were not, able to deal with the bacterial infections that would kill them off in those areas. But what he doesn't highlight is the fact that it used to go both ways. Like, disease, it was quite common for, if you were colonizing a location, for whoever was invading to get sick from things they had never come across before and perish and lose the ability to colonize that location due to sickness and illness. And that happened a lot. But on the other hand, the invaders would bring their own diseases, and the natives of that location that were being colonized would die from diseases from the invaders. So it goes both ways. I think the one thing that H.G. Wells did not fully understand was the potential where, an alien species might have such advanced technology that their understanding of bacterial, viral infection and disease is so great that they don't get sick. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that is not a concept that he probably would have foresawn, that, genetic engineering and so forth.
Well, that was the reason in the novel, because they go more into depths into the Martians, and they've eradicated all disease on Mars, like all cancers, and that's why their cells can't handle bacteria when they come to Earth, because it's just so foreign.
But I mean, you think about it, if that were actually to happen now, I mean, we in our current state of technology are getting closer and closer to a point where dealing with biological and viral infection, the day will come where we'll be able to deal with all of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The chances are that, a simple organism like that, although very effective at killing something or living off another on a host, we'll be able to deal with all of them.
All right. Should we dive into the first adaptation?
Yes.
Sure.
So let's fast forward 1938, 1 year before World War One, from one Wells to another Wells by the name of Orson Welles. He was aged 23. This is pre-fame, so this is pre-Citizen Kane. He moved from America to England, where he started a theatre company. He actually bullshitted the theatre company by telling the people in England that he was already a Broadway star, and started his own theatre troupe called the Mercury Theatre. Yeah, and he was looking for something to basically showcase and make himself famous. And he chose H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. They decided to...
Balls of this guy.
Yeah. So this is notoriously known. So this was broadcasted on Halloween, 1938. And it was presented as a series of fake news bulletins is how they decided to approach this. With it even starting as, they started the show. Now, there was like a sort of a disclaimer saying this is a fictional representation of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. And then they started it with like a jazz orchestra playing, and it was just like jazz music. And then the musicians were going to get interrupted by a news reporter going, "Oh, we've got sightings of an asteroid." And then the jazz music would play again, and then he'd come in and disrupt again. The problem was a lot of people tuned in late and they missed the disclaimer at the beginning. And that was due to the fact that a very popular radio show was on another channel beforehand called the Chase and Sanborn Hour. Now, I just want you guys to let this sink in. This show was on the radio, and it was a ventriloquist act.
Yeah, that's a thing that was around. Yeah, for sure. It's a comedy act, basically.
I wonder if, how many ventriloquists out there probably went, oh, we could do this show on the radio. Yeah.
Oh, guys, I got a new idea for a podcast. Hear me out.
Yeah. I'll be Beaker and Dr. Bunsen Honeydew.
I bet you the mimes were pissed off. So a lot of people switched it over, and they just suddenly thought, and obviously this being 1938, 1 year before World War One, the nation was on edge. It was already pretty tense. So this was almost done in bad taste.
It was done in bad taste. He deliberately did it in such a way. He did all the things he needed to do to ensure disclaimer at the beginning and at the end to make sure he didn't get sued later on. But he knew exactly what he was up to, because he knew people would tune in at the wrong time, pick up only part of the show, and stay with it. The problem is, the idea was that when people tuned into it, they would stay and continue to listen, right? Because they would be wanting to know what's going on. The reality is that, from my understanding, is people were tuning in late, they would hear a bit of the thing and think that it's actually taking place. So they didn't keep listening. They took off and they were packing their bags and fucking freaking out and going all over the place.
It was pure 100% bastard. That's what it was. It was a prank. It was a prank of 10th magnitude.
Yeah.
It was pulled off with absolute precision, callousness, really.
Yeah, cruelty, man.
It's actually been considered the first case of fake news.
Fake news. Right, you're right.
Orson Welles was operating on 3 hours of sleep, 20 cups of coffee, and rewriting the script during the broadcast while yelling directions.
I can't believe we're still going. We're still going. Yeah.
He gave the news reporter was basically told to use the Hindenburg disaster broadcast as inspiration.
Right. Mm-hmm. Jesus.
They were using things like I think they used they were crushing watermelons to stimulate like sounds of human skulls being crushed in, and bubble wraps and like all that weird shit, man. So a New Jersey man grabbed a shotgun and was running around the streets to fight off creatures. There was also, just by chance, a power outage in certain areas of America, which
Oh shit!
also like highlighted the confusion. And a woman ended up suing the CBS. However, the newspapers reported mass hysteria. They
Dogs and cats sleeping together, mass hysteria. Yeah.
So the newspaper exaggerated it.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Saying there was like suicide stampedes, because at the time there was actually a major rivalry between newspapers and radio.
Right.
So, and like phone lines were overcalled. Adolf Hitler even cited the broadcast as an example of decadent democracy.
They're weak. Look at them running around confused by radio shows.
This actually transformed Orson Welles into a Hollywood star. This is what got him famous.
Mm-hmm.
This sparked ongoing debates about trust in media and responsibility. This opened a whole lot of conversations and laws and stuff. This broadcast. Yeah.
And the problem too with a broadcast like this is because people were tuning in at different times. And because there were power outages, it's not like it was right across the country, right?
No.
Some places didn't have any radio going, so they weren't listening to anything. They were completely, unaware of what other people were doing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, it resulted in people simply panicking and just hiding in their homes. But some of them might be still listening to the radio show, but some of them were not.
Yeah,
All good folklore, boxes to put food in and shit like that.
Yeah, like all good folklore, there was some places. There was always some person who was from that place who was not connected to you directly, but my cousin's aunt was in that place where they had the power cut, and they swear to God there was lights in the sky.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was only like 60 minutes long. You can find it on YouTube easy. It's an hour long, and it's amazing how much chaos. 1 hour of radio caused.
Yeah, listening to it, I can believe why people would say, "Oh, that was happening."
Yeah,
because he really did go to great lengths to make it sound like a news bulletin of that time.
Yeah,
we wouldn't hear news like that.
They took it very
now.
seriously. Yeah,
but back then, that's what it would sound like. So, well done, you bastard, you trickster, you hoaxer.
You bastards!
You've got to respect somebody for creating so much chaos with just 60 minutes of radio.
That is inspired by the comedy company in Australia had this. It was a TV show, and it had Con the Fruiter and Colin Carpenter, and they had Bastards Incorporated, which was this made up board. Corporation board, and all they were was designing things to be as deliberately awful for consumers as possible. What things designed to break on purpose and that sort of stuff. It's just like, what can we do to make this worse?
Yeah, Orson Welles did end the broadcast with the line, "If your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian. It's Halloween."
Right. Nice. They won't confuse anybody at all.
By that time, it was a little bit too late. No one was listening. Everyone was running around.
Even he's gone mad. Yeah.
I just found that fascinating. Yeah. Anything else on the radio broadcast?
No. People should go and listen to it. It really is a piece of literature and art of an amazing magnitude.
Yeah. It's just because it's got the cold open, isn't it, with the horrible shitty jazz music, and then it's like interrupted, and it's like we're going live to this reporter in the field, and then it cuts back, and then going live, and it's just it
sounds unplanned. Yes.
Yeah.
Strangely enough. Yeah.
Very clever. Okay, so let's fast forward to 1953, where we actually got our first cinematic adaptation of War of the Worlds from Paramount.
Mm-hmm.
So when was this? This is almost 55 years it took to get this book made into a film. Yeah, so directed by Byron Haskin, produced by George Powell, starring Gene Barry, Anne Robinson, had a budget of $2 million in 1953.
Yeah, 2 million in that at that time is a lot of money.
Yep, yep. They obviously changed quite a bit. So the original novel took place in Victorian England. So they moved it to Southern California, where a meteorite crashes. Yeah, it's the same story. There is a
Well,
few.
it's the same story in many respects, but there are some differences in this story because this story, if you watch it, is from the perspective of the military.
Mhm.
It gives you a small slice of the everyday person and the framing of a small town. It's more from a perspective of scientists as well, and there is, of course, a romance taking place at the same time. So they've got three things going on here: military, science community, and the average person. And of course, and amongst that, to ensure that people would go and watch it, there's a love story because that's often, science fiction back then is not something that did well. And this movie did not do well. I like it a lot, but it didn't do well. Um, and that's unfortunate. $2 million back then is so much money, and that's great. But how much money did it make worldwide? About the same. And if you know anything about making movies, you really have to take the budget of a movie and multiply that by 3 or 4 times its budget for it to pay for its marketing. And there was a lot of marketing for the movie and the cut that the picture theaters get, the people who are playing the movie. So it was a financial flop, but it is, you know, considered a masterpiece, and it's gone into the Hall of Fame in terms of movies.
Yeah, it's
It
I think it's been put into the National Film Registry. It's
Yeah,
I've watched it
culturally
many times.
significant.
yeah,
Yeah, I've watched it like 10, 12 times.
yeah.
Mm.
And I keep going back to watching it, every year or two, just because of what
It's
it
like
is.
comfort food. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a cult film in science fiction genre, and it is one of those standout movies. It's inspired literally every alien fucking movie under the sun.
It's the original Independence Day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And Independence Day,
Mm.
aliens invade the and try to wipe out humans. And how do they defeat it? With a computer virus.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how they updated it. But I believe that the critics considered in 1953 this movie it's got an 89% Rotten Tomatoes. So the critics really were very impressed, and the audience was reasonably impressed as well. It got a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Rotten Tomatoes is a newish thing. So we're talking about an audience that is probably not the original audience that saw the movie back in 1953. So it had a fairly solid following. The problem is, from what I can see, is the profit from this movie. I don't think it was just distributed worldwide very well. Its release in the States wasn't great either, and it is not the type of movie that usually gets a lot of eyeballs on it because it's science fiction. People go and see Ben-Hur or Gone with the Wind or something like that. But in 1953, it's not science fiction. It's not
It's
this
a
movie.
tight film as well. It's only 85 minutes long.
Yeah, it's very,
Yeah.
very tight. Yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't muck around with it. Another thing to
It's almost
understand.
like a drive-in movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be the B movie, right? Because drive-in
Yeah.
movies, you'd have the A movie and the B movie. This
Mm.
would probably be classified as being the B movie, right?
Yeah.
You get the
Like
second
the like the
one
Day
if you
the Earth
stay.
Stood Still is more of a B movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's the movie they played after the lead movie.
Yeah.
So the thing with the special effects, at its time, it was so impressive that they made an actual special award for the thing. And it won because there was no competition whatsoever. The decision was to give it a specialized award for special effects. And because nobody else was making anything like this, there was no competition. So it won outright just because it was made,
Right.
frankly.
Yep.
So you've got to bear in mind when they say, special effects, amazing for its day. If it had been made a couple of years beforehand or a couple of years after, it would still probably have won the award.
Right.
Yep.
It
It
would
was
have
on
invented the wood. Yeah.
literally it had invented the whole thing because it didn't exist before. The actual alien ships are not tripods; they are
Yeah,
floating.
it's got quite a few differences from the novel. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
one of the main ones. Yeah,
it's a floating manta ray with a sort of a
Cobra.
single cobra-like eye
Mm.
that comes off. And when you think in terms of the vision that H.G. Wells had, and the vision that whoever designed this had, this was even more revolutionary. Like that, this thing floated on magnetically, above the ground. It
Yep.
had a magnetic field, so it had a force field to protect it.
Yep.
It shooted blue and red rays from the thing, which incinerated everything and burnt everything to a crisp.
Mhm.
And the concept behind it is that these aliens have unusual biology. Like they have one eye, and it's made up of three parts.
Mm.
They see color differently. They are, very anemic. The design for the alien, when they made the original Alien for this movie, was too big to include in the set. So they had to remake the actual alien for filming, which they needed for one day. And
Mm.
it had to be a particular day because the shooting schedule was so tight. And they couldn't. They had to get it remade, and it was going to be getting used the next day. So what happened is the special effects designer went and made another one overnight with his daughter, and it was not dry. It did not set, which is why when you see it in the movie, it looks wet and it looks so real. Unless you look very carefully, and you might see a bit of gaffer tape coming off, where the glue was coming apart, where they might have had to do a patch job during the shooting schedule. It's hard to see because it's so dark in those scenes, but there is a scene where there's a little bit of gaffer tape coming off. But other than that, it looks way too fucking real for 1953.
Yeah. It has like veins underneath the surface of the paint, which are like going pumping in and out. Look, it's very realistic. Yeah,
they actually had something that would pump liquid through those veins in the head.
Yeah.
And they also, when they were layering it, because they had to redo it and it was do it so fast, it hadn't hardened, right? It hadn't cured properly, so that's why you get that translucent look to it.
Yeah.
And they're like, "This is working for us. Let's just do it, and hopefully it holds together long enough for the filming." So lots of crazy stuff.
It had a lot of Cold War sort of context as well, sort of reflecting on those anxieties around nuclear war and invasion. Interestingly, it was rated X in the UK when it first released, considered to be too scary for under 16s, but they later revised that to a PG rating. Pretty fast.
Definitely driving movie material then. It's just like...
the major differences between the book as well, obviously it's set in America rather than England. The aliens in the book are sort of large tentacled bear-sized beings, whereas, like they said here, the one-eyed, three-fingered creatures. They got rid of the tripod, the giant walking tripod, and replaced that with sort of hovering manta ray crafts. They added they ditched the heat ray and black smoke and using the green disintegration ray instead, or the skeleton beam, as they called it. They changed the religious theme by having the pastor sort of more heroic, and adding a church to sort of give it more of a spiritual angle. Whereas in the book, he wasn't obviously a fan of religion. He kind of made that more sort of cowardly, with no divine overtones. They got rid of the red weed, which is really present in the book, and they sped it up. So in the film, um, it took the invasion took days, whereas in the novel, it's over a period of weeks and months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they made a few key changes. But at the end of the day, a lot of these adaptations have all taken liberties with the source material, but it's always the same.
Yeah.
The heart of the film is still there. The heart of the story is still there.
Yeah.
And you got to understand that back in 1953, probably adding in a religious overtone that that God is in his wisdom is created the bacteria or virus to ensure the safety of whoever's on planet Earth. Is the sort of thing that you could sell to an audience back then, because it would have been hard to sell the idea that they're dealing with a world which is as brutal and harsh as the world that he's presenting in his book.
Yeah. So the overlying message is that all through the movie really is that we are at no point are any of the people against each other. They all come together instantaneously to work together, or sit and pray together in a church. And that's the American way,
Yeah. Rather than
then at
dog
the end of
dog.
it, then at the end of it is that God in His infinite wisdom, we have earned the right to be here. That's a very different message from blah blah blah. We are protected. It's we have the right to be here because of our toil and suffering and all of our ancestors that have died, from diseases and stuff like that. So that message is a more nationalistic sort of overtone to it because of the time period. So it was a bit harsher than just kumbaya. It was it's like anybody comes to invade us. So that was very on par with the sentiment at the time, because they were dealing with a nuclear war world.
Independence Day took that tone and fucking went gangbusters with it, didn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, also too, this old movie shows you everything they do. They use every conventional weapon they have. Nothing stops it.
Yeah, they
even
use
show
nukes.
you the nuclear bomb going off, and it doesn't scratch it in the slightest.
Their biggest fear that they have in the day, like shockingly, would be to lob a nuke at it, and then nothing happens. Oh, that would be unthinkable. So that would be just like they're unbeatable. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah, and they even go as far as okay, so what's left to do? Well, the best thing we've got is a nuclear weapon. Now it's up to the scientists to figure out and solve the problem. And of course, what happens is humanity destroys the scientists' attempt to study the biology of the blood of the alien to defeat it, and are unsuccessful.
Yep.
It is only by just divine intervention, you might say, that it happened, and it's only because as AJ pointed out, earned the right to exist on the planet. The other thing to understand about this movie is it didn't really have stars in it. Gene Barry and Anne Robinson were not really that well known. They played their part well, like they did their roles well, like most actors of the time can act a particular way, and they did the job. They are known for those roles mostly, out of everything else they've ever done, which is interesting, because you see this happen in movies where people say, oh well, a movie would do well if it had a star leading it. And that's not always the case. There's plenty of movies that have been made where the actors have never been known of, and it's just a movie. I believe the director said.
Well, I think it goes the other way as well. I mean, we'll get to that one a bit later on, but with the Spielberg one, everyone refers to that as the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds, not the Spielberg War of the Worlds, because But
I mean, also the director said that this movie was the star of the movie was supposed to be the aliens. It was supposed to be the war machines and the aliens, not really the human characters in the movie, and that was what was supposed to be the showcase. But anyway, that's 1953.
Yeah, I guess the original was religion versus science, and this one was more military versus science, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it was actually a combination. Like I say, I think that this movie has three aspects: military, science, and religion going on.
Mm.
But yeah,
All right. Yeah, let's fast forward to 1978, where Jeff Wayne made a totally different version of War of the Worlds. For me, this is my entry into War of the Worlds. Growing up in the 70s with an older brother, this album was massive. Yep. So it was a progressive rock concept album consisting of like rock, orchestra music, and spoken word. Composed by Jeff Wayne, who was pretty much an unknown at the time. But he managed to get Richard Burton as the narrator and a bunch of quite famous musicians: Justin Hayward, who was from the Moody Blues, um, Phil Linton, who was from Thin Lizzy, and it follows. This is actually really accurate to the original H.G. Wells novel. It returns it back to England, and it really sort of like hammers into the themes that Wells's novel really did. And it's just got some amazing tracks on it: Evil War, Thunder Child, Forever Autumn. Also, the shout out to the album art as well, which was done by a Michael Trim and Richard Evans. Really helped bring that story to life, especially with it being the double album. It's got like the Martian tripod attacking the Royal Navy on the cover, the glowing heat rays. Just it came with a booklet with the lyrics, narration, and detailed illustrations, and showing like the cylinder landing, the destruction of towns and cities, the artilleryman's underground plans. Yeah, it was kind of this, I guess, retro futuristic meets Victorian sci-fi feel. Just really dark, really cool. It's a very faithful adaptation as well. So, yeah, any thoughts on this?
I love it. That was one of my staple albums that we listened to every time we were playing D&D.
Yeah.
Throughout the early 80s, 90s. Yeah.
I don't think I encountered this. I do remember an album called War of the Worlds that my grandmother had that I listened to, but it was the original Orson Welles telling. With Because it was an album, it wasn't. It was there were liberties taken with it, so there was a little bit of adjustment made to make it work, particularly as a story rather than just a news bulletin.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, a concept album is very of its time, isn't it? It's a very. I don't. Do they still make concept albums now? I mean, we had
Yeah.
we had the Wall, um, you know,
M-
Rocky
More
Horror Show all around this
Merkborg,
time.
Merkborg made one.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, this is kind of like Jeff. He still tours with us. It's still doing live tours around the world. With they use 3D visuals, pyrotechnics, holograms. Um, People like Liam Neeson have stepped up as the narrator on the
Hell
tours
yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Hell yeah.
it's
I'd be in for that. That'd be awesome.
yeah. It's just I just think it's a very cool album. Yeah, and just an interesting take on the story.
Mm.
The music really lends itself to the atmosphere and the sort of like, once you hear those it's got this really fucking wicked bass line, that just adds to tension. I think that's Artillery Man. I think that track. Yeah, and it's just it's like impending doom, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great album. Anyway, definitely worth mentioning, and I'd say this, out of all the adaptions we've got, this is the one I go back to the most. It just takes me back to my childhood, and it's a bleak story. Like the original story is really dark, which we don't get with the 1953. The 1953 one almost seems somewhat hopeful in comparison.
I didn't see that. I saw that it was really sort of the story was that there was no hope. And they did everything in the story to ensure that it made it clear that there was no hope. It's only by just sheer dumb luck, it seems, that they survive. Like, everybody else is dying left, right, and center. So yeah, I've got a different view of that movie, I guess.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't think you can make a story or a movie like this and it not feel bleak. Unless, of course, you are a hardened wanker and you think that the incineration of hundreds, thousands, millions of people is not a big deal.
Well,
So
Mars Attacks, I guess, is an attempt to make the story not bleak. So
I
put
don't
a
know.
comical satire on it.
It's comical. It's definitely comical, but it's still pretty bleak.
Mhm.
Like, yeah. But there's a comical aspect to it. I mean, that's a different animal in itself, right?
Yeah,
Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
It's Bridget Nielsen's head on a dog.
Mm, yeah. It's pretty bleak. Yeah. They're going to experiment on you. They're not going to kill you. If they don't kill you, they're going to experiment with you and turn you into some sort of Frankenstein creature.
They ain't taking my TV.
Yeah,
they're great.
yeah. Then they're going to kill, and you're going to die when you crash and drown on a spaceship. Yeah, there you go.
Unless your name's Tom Jones, then you're right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, the story of War of the Worlds is a bleak story, but it has at its end some sort of redeeming factor, because there aren't that many good stories out there that are just bleak and horrible from beginning to end. They
Mm.
wind up being, not appealing.
Hmm.
You've either got to give people hope at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end, somewhere along the way. You can't just go, I'm going to shit on you for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on you.
Or in the case of the Wheel of Time for 40 novels.
Mm.
I think that, The Mist is my comfort film. I'll put that on to cheer myself up.
Yeah. So
Jesus.
I'm going to say now, since I work in the mental health industry, there are issues there, Newton.
Yeah.
There are some really big issues.
The film that ends with the protagonist going, it's like, yes, somewhere off in The Princess Bride, there's the guy, Prince Humperdinck, and he goes, "You hear that? That's the sound of ultimate suffering."
Yeah.
I did. I
Okay.
compiled a list of some of my favorite sci-fi films, and it does paint a bleak picture about me. I've got like Children of Men up there and in The Mist, and like none of these films add. And anyway, let's fast track. 2005. Mr. Steven Spielberg did a post 9/11 sci-fi reimagining of War of the Worlds. This ticked a lot of boxes that I thought this should be really good. I mean, we got Tom Cruise in the lead, John Williams doing the score, Morgan Freeman as the narrator. What's everyone's thoughts on this one?
I liked it. I thought it was a good vehicle for Tom Cruise. He does fairly well in sci-fi movies, and this was a pretty good one. I like the treatment of how they did the arrival of the things, and it was a fresh take from the very start, really. And it was pretty much into the action very quickly. And it captured the spectacle of the cylinder opening in the town square quite well, but it was a totally different take on it. So you got the vibe and confusion was captured, so we got the original audience feel like what's going on. So our expectation was being subverted right from the beginning in a good way. So we're left asking questions where we should be asking questions. Yeah, but it's sort of precursor to that was like, why is the wind rushing towards the storm? It's like, oh, that's weird. It's like, that is fucking weird. Just that little touch had that little H.P. Lovecraft oddity to it. It's like physics is not behaving correctly.
Yeah, it wiped out all our technology straight away. It had some really. It was like sort of feeding on the fear that America had around that sort of 9/11. It changed that the alien war machines were already here, and it was just basically pilots arriving. Through lightning storms.
We don't find that out until later, though. That's a payoff with the news reporter after he's well clear of the city by the time he finds out that. Anyway, so next thing we got this big thing bursting out of the ground, and it's a proper tripod, and we get
Yep.
that payoff too. It's like, oh wow, it's not a floating, manta ray. It's an actual war machine, proper thing. And then, of course, it's death and destruction, and mayhem, and trying to keep his family together and race to survive. So yeah,
Probably
the 2 hours.
stats. I don't know about you, but I think you've talked about this before, AJ. There's two aspects to this movie that are the most horrific and terrifying to contemplate, and that is energy rays that when they hit you, you just explode into dust.
Yep.
As I think you described it, a water sack being hit by a powerful ray would just be gone.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the fact that they suck the blood out of you and then spray it onto their alien red plant or vine to make it grow off your blood as fertilizer.
That's from the original novel.
Yeah.
That was in the musical version as well.
Mm.
Yeah. That would have been too dark for the 1950s film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just don't think I think people would not have been able to deal with that.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I don't think the censorship office would have been able to figure out what the hell to do with that either.
No.
Yeah. They would have seen it as unnecessarily grotesque.
Yeah.
I think the thing that is probably goes against this film is Tom Cruise is not likable. I know that Spielberg, he has dad issues and he brings those into a lot of his films. E.T. And he's obviously brought that. Tom Cruise's character here he's a flawed blue collar father that doesn't give two shits about his kids, and he has to grow as a person. I guess that's the journey. It's kind of almost.
Yeah. It's the perspective. It's not the perspective of the military. It's not the perspective of the scientist. It's the perspective of a normal, average-ish person or a dysfunctional individual or individuals or family. And so, and that's what Spielberg does. Is he shows you the stuff that's closer and more easier for people to align themselves with and identify with, which I think is smart in many respects as a story, because Tom Cruise's character goes through far more growth than any of the other characters did in the 1950s 53 movie, and more than likely I would say even in the book adaptation. It's not like the problem is with many things, like everything, is that they give Tom Cruise's character one moment. They give Tom Cruise one moment, right, to show his redeeming feature where he saves his daughter from an insane individual who is intending to attack the tripods and try to kill some of them. And he kills that man behind closed doors. We don't see it, but he makes that decision that he's got no other choice but to do that.
Yeah, so that is a twist on the novel. So in the novel, when he returns back to London, he finds this a military guy, and the military guy is basically saying, "Oh, we need to live underground. We need to start digging tunnels, and we need to adapt. And this is the new normal." And he kind of So that's a twist on that character. Showing like someone. He really leans into the everyone turning on each other when that showcase when they've got that only working car, and they end up at the docks, and everyone's just fucking going nuts, and it looks like he's going to lose his kid. And she is really good in it. What's her name? Dakota Fanning.
Yeah.
She was a great little. Yeah. What was that other film she did with Denzel Washington, which was awesome as well? Where
Man on Fire.
Yeah. She was knocking it out of the park back then, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was a little actress to have if you needed a child actor, basically.
Yeah. The boy, not so much.
But yeah, I mean, no. But I mean, the reality is, I mean, we don't see a lot of him anyway. He just behaves like what we expect from a teenager, anyways, like a dick,
moody.
But to be fair too, like the critics did not consider the 2005 movie to be a terrible movie. It got 76% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Hmm.
So the vast majority, not maybe as high as the 1953 movie, but what it shows here is a huge difference in the audience of 2005, who 42% on Rotten Tomatoes liked the movie, and the vast majority of people did not like the movie. Did not do great at all. But financially, Spielberg was laughing to the bank. It's $132 million to make, with a worldwide profit of $603 million. So
Yeah.
a
Good
financial
marketing.
success.
Good marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair, a solid movie. It may not be my favorite version of War of the Worlds, but it's still a solid movie.
It's a great film. I got it on Blu-ray when I got my surround sound, and it is a great film to showcase off your subwoofer.
Yeah, because in this movie, the Martians have that big ululation call.
Like a foghorn, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
he obviously used a lot of imagery inspired by 9/11, sort of, missing people walls, collapsed cities, everyone covered in dust, which was other humans. And really, it just gave a sense of personal survival, didn't it? It wasn't like humanity teamed together on this one. It was every man for yourself.
Yeah, humanity tearing itself apart is really what it's all about. And too, there wasn't 1953 did not really have aliens capturing humans and then
baskets.
using them as fertilizer. So this is much darker in many respects. So when you do something like that, you can kind of expect it's not like they released this at Halloween.
Yeah.
To a Halloween audience. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even if you did, Halloween is predominantly made up of, in the States, low budget movies that make bucket loads of money. $20 million or less, and they make $150 million profit. so that is like laughing to the bank.
We got to see the aliens in this one as well.
It's hard to fit this movie in. Pardon?
We got to see the aliens in this one as well, quite well.
Well, we did in the original as well.
Yeah, a lot more than the original. So
you get to see them walking around and investigating stuff and moving things. Yeah, and whereas in the original, you just get to see them go, put their arms up and run off.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they've got that snake-like sort of eye that comes in and investigate. That's a cool scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lots of tension in that. It's an easy watch. I chucked it on the other day, and yeah, it's easy to sit through. I think it's a 2-hour film, but it doesn't feel like a 2-hour film. It's really well paced. Like AJ said, it hits the ground running. We meet Tom Cruise. He's a wanker. His kids don't want to be there. He doesn't want his kids, and then all shit goes down. And and the only reason he survives, I guess, to start with, is because he figures out how to get the car going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's just a road trip, isn't it? Where they just go from one chaotic scene to the next chaotic scene. It does have a lot of it is really faithful to the book, I have to say, though. And I think he got 3 Academy Award nominations for it, all for sound. So
all for sound.
Mm-hmm.
I think also what may have dampened the response to this movie is Tom Cruise, because at the time Tom Cruise was a big deal. But if you know anything about Tom Cruise, he works himself to death, really. He's notorious for not sleeping very much, and he showed up on Oprah Winfrey around just before the movie's release.
Oh, is this when he declared his love for his new girlfriend by jumping on the couch? Is this that period?
He was all over the place, which you could pass down as like he's just an actor who's in a talk show who's really excited and having a good time. But really for Oprah, it was a bit much for her to deal with, and the audience was really quite surprised. Is he on drugs? Is he losing it? And I think the problem is because Tom Cruise is one of those sorts of people. When he's filming, he's always there. He shows up first, he leaves last. He's notorious for doing this. He doesn't get enough sleep. And his relationship with Steven Spielberg was getting, more difficult as the movie was getting closer to completion. So I think he was a product of, like, dude, you needed to probably not be doing Oprah Winfrey, and go get some sleep and chill out a little bit, rather than go get freaky.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when you look at what happened, it's not really a big deal. Like, the audience is definitely overreacting about his.
Just came across as a man that was having a midlife crisis, didn't he?
Yeah, he came across as somebody who was losing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
On national TV. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we've gone through anything. You guys got anything else you want to add? Any closing thoughts on War of the Worlds?
Well, I mean, how many different movies have been spawned by the original book, and then the remakes, of the book into movies, and audio shows, and all sorts. There's so many. Like, when we say Independence Day, yes, but then Invaders from Mars is probably another one that sort of comes from that. That's a fairly old movie as well. And there's been many, many different versions of that that have come out over time. Literally, like, every single movie that you can think of that involves aliens coming and trying to colonize the Earth has come from this. V, the original miniseries and then TV show. We said Independence Day, but there are many more. Like, and it just doesn't stop, and they don't stop doing it. Like, it's quite a common thing to see. And when Spielberg did War of the Worlds, he had always presented aliens as being nice.
Yeah.
This is the one movie where he presented aliens as not being nice, because E.T., nice. Close Encounters, nice.
Another deadbeat dad film.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the only, and you think about all of the movies he's ever done where there's been aliens involved, like even Batteries Not Included, Little Flying Saucers. I don't know if you know that movie.
Yeah.
Nice. They're constructs that fly around. They have little baby flying saucers and so forth. So that was just a stretch for him, and I remember him saying that it was hard for him to make an alien movie where it was about total panic and chaos and humanity turning on itself, and the aliens wanting to just literally just kill everybody and use them as fertilizer. So
even the color of the film is like sort of down, isn't it? It's got this kind of mucky sort of tone, color tone to it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, War of the Worlds has remained a powerful and adaptable franchise, from 1898. It's evolved into radio, film, music, but it's always sort of has that core theme of, human fertility, technological advancement and survival. It's a timeless story that just keeps resonating and can be reinvented all the time. It just, phenomenal story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Same with The Time Machine, which is another film. I think that's a very underrated film, the Guy Pearce one.
There's an older Time Machine movie as well, but I think the problem for the Time Machine is it doesn't have quite the same scope. It's trying to tell a story and present a lesson, because H.G. Wells is always trying to do that. That's the nature of science fiction. It's always trying to teach you something about the science that it's talking about. But I can see more stories and movies and shows and TV series being made about, the concept of War of the Worlds, adaptations of that, or something that's inspired from that. It's going to keep happening. And we'll get variations that are very different, but still playing off that. So it's like, I think War of the Worlds is like Lord of the Rings. Like Lord of the Rings has been around so long, and people's appetite for Lord of the Rings, it's still on the top 10 or 20 books bestseller, and it
Yeah.
just stays there.
Yes.
And War of the Worlds is maybe not top 10, 20, I don't know, of bestseller books, but it keeps getting used for other types of art, such as film and TV
So I
shows and
guess, with War of
audio
Worlds,
shows and stuff like
you
that.
can always keep the Martian. You can always keep that Martian threat, but you can always switch the perspective of who are viewing that threat through. Is
Yeah.
the story can remain the same.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done with each one of these adaptations. It's always told through a different perspective.
Yeah.
So when we get to Mars, and we've got a colony of robots there, and everything's fine. There's no Martians for sure. Next, it'll be Io, one of the moons of Jupiter. It'll be some watery moon that creatures in there have never seen the outside world, that sort of thing.
And then
it'll switch. It'll switch to the next goalpost, the next goalpost, and the next goalpost. It's not the star system will be the next one.
No, and then
Always on the horizon.
And then we'll of course get the black box monolith.
I think we're just going to fuck this planet. That when aliens do come to invade, they're going to go, "Fuck, this place is a fucking shithole."
Are we going?
No,
now?
they'll arrive and see. Oh shit! It's another death.
Here.
It's another death robot planet. Fuck. Yeah, the robots took over again. It's like we are the robots. Oh shit!
Fuck! I don't want to live here. This place is fucking crap.
Oh, I do. I love that new engine smell, man. It turns me on. I'm looking forward to my new Tesla girlfriend.
Just remember, your Tesla girlfriend will only last 10 years.
Well, hey, what's new?
Don't forget to charge her before you go to bed. You don't want to go and flat halfway through.
How much does it cost to upgrade to the next model? Oh, half of everything you own? Yeah, typical.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No. War of the Worlds is one of my favourite movies of all time, which is why I keep watching it.
Yeah, and it's one of my favourite albums of all time. I think it's a great album. That's my favourite adaptation. What's your favourite adaptation, AJ? Tripods.
Honestly, the Tom Cruise one is one of my favourite adaptations. It's because I really like Tom Cruise. No, I like both of the movies, and I also love the original radio event.
During this research, the radio show was definitely the most entertaining thing to uncover.
Yeah,
it was just fucking pure chaos.
Yeah, it's totally cool.
Yeah. And it's good to see, like, we haven't changed. Fake news still going. So, yep. Orson Welles, the original Trump. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get out of here. So, I killed the vibe. All right. That is good night from me.
It's good night from him.
And it's good night from the smallest, most minute microbe that is not your friend, because I don't just kill aliens, I kill everybody.
Yeah. We have earned the right to be here.
For now.
I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you filthy microbes.
Wasn't for your filthy germs.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.